For over a century, one dinosaur has defined our image of a prehistoric defender, the mighty Triceratops. A three-horned giant, forever locked in an epic struggle with T-Rex. But what if this story, etched in stone, was missing its final, most spectacular chapter? What if there was another king of the horned dinosaurs, a titan we've only just discovered, who wore a crown of crimson? This is the incredible scientific detective story of Triceratops rufus, the lost king of Hell Creek. Our story begins not 66 million years ago, but in the sun-baked Badlands of Montana in 2004. Paleontologist Dr. Eleanor Vance was exploring a familiar stretch of the famous Hell Creek Formation. Her team had found countless Triceratops bones before, but the fragments weathering out of this hillside felt different. The bone was denser, more robust. As they dug, a nearly complete skull emerged. It was undeniably Triceratops, but the proportions were all wrong. The two massive brow horns didn't curve gracefully forward. Instead, they shot straight ahead like colossal railroad spikes, their tips slightly upturned. These were weapons made for a devastating, head-on charge. The nasal horn was shorter but thicker, a brutal battering ram. But the most stunning feature was the frill. Unlike the familiar Triceratops horridus, which often had large openings in its bony shield, this frill was an almost solid plate of bone. It was a massive, convex wall of armor, scalloped at the edges. And that's where things got really interesting. High-resolution scans revealed that the frill was covered in a unique, dense network of grooves. These weren't just for saving weight. They were superhighways for blood vessels. This suggested a frill that, in life, could have been flushed with color a giant, living billboard. But a single, strange skull wasn't enough to convince a skeptical scientific community. The hunt for the Crimson Crown was on. Over the next decade, more evidence trickled in, always from the very top layers of Hell Creek the last few 100,000 years before the asteroid impact. By analyzing these new fossils and re-examining old ones that had been misidentified, a clear pattern emerged. Triceratops horridus had ruled the landscape for millions of years. But in the final moments of the Cretaceous, it was gradually replaced by this bigger, more heavily armored cousin. This wasn't just a new dinosaur. This was evolution in action, caught right at the brink of extinction. So what made Triceratops rufus the ultimate prehistoric fortress? Let's break down the anatomy of this titan, built for a final stand. Standing up to 30 feet long and weighing as much as 12 tons, it was a similar size to its predecessor, but its design was pure defense. Biomechanist Dr. Kenji Tanaka created 3D models of the horns to test their strength. The results were shocking. The horridus horns were great for locking and wrestling. Like modern bison, rufus horns were optimized for one thing: linear impalement. The angle was perfect to transfer the immense force of a charge directly into a predator, stopping it dead in its tracks. The short, thick nasal horn was likely for fights with rivals, a devastating tool for close-quarters shoving matches. But its true masterpiece was that solid frill. Impact simulations showed it could withstand and distribute the bone-crushing bite of a T-Rex far better than the lighter frill of horridus. It wasn't just a neck shield, it was a full-body deflector. When Rufus lowered its head, the curved frill would cover its back and shoulders, presenting a continuous, sloping wall of bone to any attacker. It was like a knight's shield and shoulder armor fused into one. Now let's talk about its name, the Crimson Crown. Those dense vascular grooves on the frill are the key. In living animals like cassowaries or certain lizards, similar structures support incredible displays of color-vivid reds, oranges, and yellows that can be switched on and off by controlling blood flow. Driver Vance's team proposed that Triceratops rufus could do the same thing. In quiet moments, its frill might be a muted gray or brown. But when threatened or during courtship displays, it could flood the frill with blood, turning it a brilliant, startling crimson. Just imagine it, a herd of these 10-ton behemoths on a floodplain, their 7-foot-wide frills suddenly glowing like setting suns. It's a silent, awe-inspiring warning to any T-Rex thinking about lunch. This Crimson Crown would have been a powerful social signal, a way to establish dominance and coordinate the herd without resorting to dangerous physical fights. The world of Triceratops rufus was a planet under stress. Sea levels were changing, the climate was in flux, and massive volcanoes were erupting in India. As a low-browsing herbivore, its powerful beak and shearing teeth were perfect for shredding the tough palms and ferns of this changing landscape. As an adult, it had only one real predator, Tyrannosaurus rex. And the evolutionary arms race between these two giants reached its absolute peak with Rufus. We have the fossil evidence to prove it. Paleontologists have found healed T-Rex bite marks on Rufus frills. Even more amazing, a T-Rex rib was discovered with the broken tip of a horn embedded in a horn whose shape perfectly matched that of a Triceratops rufus. This wasn't a theoretical battle. It was a brutal, daily reality. And it seems Rufus didn't face this world alone. Unlike older theories about solitary Triceratops, several Rufus bone beds contain multiple individuals of all ages, from young juveniles to massive old bulls. This points to a complex herd structure, likely led by a dominant male whose crimson frill broadcasted his status. Herds would have provided crucial protection for the young, forming a defensive circular wall of horns and crimson shields against any threat. The story of Triceratops rufus completely changes how we see the end of the age of dinosaurs. For decades, we pictured a static world, a cast of familiar characters marching obliviously toward their doom. The Crimson Crown shatters that image. It reveals a world still buzzing with evolutionary change, right up to the final moments. Here was a lineage that was actively adapting, getting tougher, more social, and more spectacular. It makes you wonder, what if the asteroid had missed? The path of ceratopsian evolution was heading towards even greater specialization. Would they have become even larger? Would their frills have become even more colorful and ornate? Triceratops rufus represents a future that was stolen from them, a road not taken. Their extinction wasn't a slow fade due to evolutionary failure. The horned dinosaurs were thriving, innovating, and dominating. They were at their peak, not their end, which makes their sudden loss all the more tragic. Today, the reconstructed skeleton of the very first Triceratops rufus, nicknamed Rufus by the team, stands proudly in a museum. It's posed not fighting a T-Rex, but standing alert, its frill cast in a special resin that glows a deep crimson under the exhibit lights. Next to it, a skeleton of Triceratops horridus shows the stark difference of before and after snapshot of evolution caught in stone. The Crimson Crown teaches us that the fossil record is an endless puzzle, and that even the most famous chapters of history can hold incredible surprises. It shows us the power of science, where different fields come together to resurrect not just a skeleton, but a living, breathing creature. But most of all, Triceratops rufus is a symbol of life's relentless creativity. In the face of a changing world and a terrifying predator, this dinosaur didn't just survive, it evolved, becoming stronger, more brilliant, and more beautiful. It was evolution's final masterpiece, painted in bone and vibrant crimson, on the very last canvas before the lights went out. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the lost worlds of our planet.